Hi, I'm Margot Sapel from TheWrap. I'm here with Zachary Quinto to talk about NOS4A2 Season 2. Hi, Zach. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm super excited for this new season. So where we left Charlie Manx was an interesting predicament. He was shriveled up in a hospital bed on the brink of death, but then at the last second, his heart starts beating again. So tell us about where we left Charlie and where we're going to find him in the beginning of Season 2.
Yeah, it wasn't great for him there at the end of season one. But season two picks up 8 years later, actually. So it stayed not good for him there for a while. And then um, we realized, I think one of the things we learned at the end of season one was how inextricably tied Charlie's um, well-being is to the car, to the Wraith. And so in the beginning of season two, an unwitting car enthusiast finds the burnt out shell of the Wraith and decides to restore it, and doesn't realize that not only is he waking up this old car, but he's waking up this old vampire. And so Charlie comes to, and is immediately kind of driven by this lust for revenge. Tracks down Vic McQueen and finds her in a very different spot than where we left her, and that sort of kicks off season two. And Vic is now in a completely different place in her life. She's got a family of her own, and a kid of her own, which is obviously going to factor into her ongoing conflict with Charlie. So it gets pretty intense pretty quickly.
Right, and we learn in Season 2 that Charlie himself has a daughter.
Hmm.
And so how does that factor in? I don't know how much we can get into Charlie's backstory. I don't want to like spoil too much from Season 2, but
Right.
what motivates Charlie and what is like his deep connection to
Well,
Christmas?
you do learn a lot about Charlie's history in season two, and that's something that I think some of it's in the book, but Joe actually wrote another a graphic novel called The Wraith, which is much more about Charlie Manx
Mm.
in general, and that's sort of what you really learn about in the season two of our show. Yeah, without giving too much away, you kind of understand a little bit more of the origins of the trauma in Charlie's life that led him to the choices that he's made. How difficult things were for him at different points along the way is something that gets revealed. And so I think you come away as an audience with a little bit of a fuller understanding of who Charlie is, and he becomes a little bit more three-dimensional and not just such a kind of monolithic villain, because any evil person ultimately isn't born that way, right? Any evil person
Right.
becomes evil through a series of their own traumas or experiences of abandonment or neglect or abuse, and that's very true for Charlie. And as much as he's tried in his earlier life to claw out from under the weight of those personal injustices, he was never able to do it, and eventually the darkness that they generated in him just overtook him, and that's the genesis of how he becomes this kind of monster.
Did you approach playing Charlie Manx in Season 2 differently than you did coming into Season 1?
I did go to Jamie O'Brien, our showrunner, and I was like, okay. I was like, we've established that, if Manx doesn't kidnap a kid and take the kid to Christmas land, that he's going to get really old again. Like, we know that that happens now enough that maybe we don't need to see it as often in season two. Just sort of thinking in terms of my own self-preservation and the hours and hours of makeup that go into those old age looks. Obviously we had to start the season in the most extreme looks, age-wise for Manx. But then I was able to kind of shape the narrative with Jamie so that the majority of the season, from call it episode 3 through episode like 7 or 8, there was a lot less old age stuff, because I felt like that was a trope that we had established, and it wasn't something that I felt like was essential to understanding who the character is now. If people watched season one, they get it, you know. So
Mhm.
so the bookends of the season definitely see Manx in those extreme looks, but I did approach it differently by saying, like, let's keep him in his younger his younger looks.
I was going to ask you more about those prosthetics because I mean, how long did it take you to get into like the scene when he's like on the autopsy table and he's like stapling his chest back together? Like that must
Yeah.
have taken several hours.
I mean, first off, that's a shout out to Joel Harlow and Richie Alonso and Jules Holdren, who were the incredible special effects hair and makeup team that did that all the time and were with me every day on set, no matter what look I was in. And they took such amazing care of me and are so talented, and I'm so grateful for them. And just loved, you know, the collaboration. Um, yeah, because the early that stuff in the first episode where Manx is on the autopsy table and he comes alive again, and like his chest is split open, and so I had to wear full like upper body from the waist up prosthetics, and so they had to glue everything that they normally glue on me on my head, and then also arms down each of my arms and a full chest plate that had like magnets in it so that I could. It was very intricate, and that definitely took, like, I think that was like 4 hours or
Wow.
something. Yeah, that was a long time. And really, I mean, yeah, that was crazy.